the control panel out of the way. Right, you can see it all now, can't you?
Yep.
Okay. So I'll just start now. Many of you will know about Steve Sinnott, who was the General Secretary of the National Union of Teachers. And the reason our foundation was set up was in his memory, because he died in office in 2008. And Steve was somebody who really believed in education for all, regardless of where you were born or where your parents were from, your economic status. He felt that free education should be accessible to everybody. And he really believed in international work. So he worked with teachers' union across the world. And so it was fitting that we set up a foundation working along those lines. So what we do is we support quality education, Sustainable Development Goal 4. But I just wanted to ask you if you could put in the chat which other goals you think that the foundation might support with our work, from the very limited knowledge that you might have of our work. Just very quickly, don't think it too deeply.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, of course. I would ask people to put into the chat which sustainable development goals that they think that the Steve Sinnott Foundation supports with our work. Yeah, so we've got quite a range. We've got 5, 10, 5, 1, 16, 10 again, 16, 5. Janet's chosen 5 of them, 3, 5, 8, 10, and 16, 1 and 3. So I think you can see that actually what we feel at the Steve Sinnott Foundation is that we actually support all of the Sustainable Development Goals. I mean, through the actual work that we do, we're combating poverty and we're reducing inequalities and we're working towards peace. We've got some projects on climate action, but actually gender equality and quality education, although they're key ones that we support, at the foundation, we believe that without education, access to education, none of the Sustainable Development Goals will be achievable. So our work, we feel, is really important and aligned to the Sustainable Development Goals achievement. So what do? We support access to education, resources for educators, and keeping the dialogue about the importance of education alive. And it can be anything that is really necessary in country. So we don't have a niche model or product or an area of operation. What we do is educators ask us to support their work, and we develop projects with educators on the ground. So we don't do to people, we do with people. Connecting learners worldwide, I think, is something that's really, really important to us. During COVID, we realised, as you have all as optimists, that connection was really key. And so we did a lot of work with different countries and young learners around digital connectivity. And if you can imagine, if our Wi-Fi drops out for half a minute, we're, pulling our hair out. But, some children don't have access to TV, they don't have access to radio, and they definitely don't have access to Wi-Fi. So during COVID, we found different ways of working. And because we're small, we can be very, very flexible. And I'm going to ask Marie Antoinette to talk about the Positive Periods programme and the gender-based violence programmes in a moment. the Positive Periods Programme, which you support as optimists, has helped over 200,000 girls to access education, and it's operating in 10 countries now. So we really have come a long way from when we first started with Pat Cobain supporting the Positive Periods Programme some years ago to really scaling up to support women to manage their periods with dignity. And out of that programme, we have, which I'll talk about in a minute, I'm going through my slides. Out of that programme where women were working together in a safe space, they've developed other programmes such as the prevention of gender-based violence. Educators started looking at things that they needed to support them to provide quality education. So counselling skills for teachers, and of course, special educational needs, identifying that. So Marie Antoinette, if you're, can you hear me?
Yes, Aunt. Yes,
Could you talk
please.
a little bit about how the programme developed from the Positive Periods and the other programmes in the Gambia, and then how women worked supporting other women across Africa?
Yes, and thank you very much. I'll be happy to talk about the positive period and the work we do with other activities. The positive, I'm afraid if I switch on this, though, the network will not be too good. With the positive period, for us here, it's our baby. That is because in the schools, we realize that students were missing out a lot of contact time, mainly because they are on their menses. Can you imagine in some schools, some of these students go in September and they don't come back until December, and they are from very, very, very disadvantaged background. For example, let me take senior secondary school where you have over 300 girls. It's a boarding school. Their parents cannot afford to buy them sanitary pads. So for them, it was difficult for them to stay in school. Some of them will use pieces of cloth, some of them will use rags, some of them will use paper, some of them will, have low esteem, etc., etc. So when we found out, we started working with the Sinnott Foundation on that, to train them on how to make reusable sanitary pads. Initially, it was just for the students, but later on, we realized that the teachers who are also in very disadvantaged areas embraced the concept, because you have a school where you don't even have a corner shop, talk less of a place to buy sanitary pads. So the Positive Period program is helping many, many students stay in school. It is building their self-esteem. It is boosting their morale. And also because it is reusable, it is reasonable, it is cheap, also they are making a lot of savings on that. So that is, so we have been able to train so many students and so many teachers on the making of reusable sanitary pads. In the communities, when they learned about it, they also came to us to say, look, you are talking about the students, you're talking about the teachers, but also in the communities, we have women who cannot afford it. So we trained some people in the communities, and that is something that is making a lot of difference in the lives of people who live in the communities. The demand is so high that we cannot even meet the demand. So that is just for the Positive Period. We were also able to move across borders. We went to Guinea-Bissau, we went to Uganda, we went to Malawi. We just got back from Sierra Leone. So definitely the Positive Period program is making a lot of difference in the lives of young women, in the lives of older women, and it is also helping them to go to school and stay in school. And you want me to talk about other things?
Yes, please. If you want to talk about the gender-based violence work or the digital connectivity, please feel free, because I know people would be very interested.
Let me just talk about the bicycles a bit. In the Gambia, we have students who walk 10 kilometers to school and back. And can you imagine where you have 40 degrees? The sun sometimes is very, very, very hot as 40 degrees. So some of these guys, they drop out of school, just the long and short of it. They drop out of school because along the way, they are raped. Along the way, they are beaten by wild animals. Along the way, they can no longer sustain it because of the heat. Along the way, they are sexually harassed and molested. So most of the time, the parents will say, okay, you just have to not go to school because there is no safe space. You're walking 10 kilometers going and 10 kilometers coming back. And some of them are in the afternoon shift. So by the time they get to school, it's late. By the time they get home, it's 7 o'clock, 8 p.m. at night, and they cannot sustain it. So the bicycle project is a project that everybody is talking about in the Gambia because it is helping them to go to school, go on time, and also stay in school. Because if you walk 10 kilometers, by the time you get to school, you are knackered. You cannot do anything. The sun is hot, you are hungry, you are tired, you are thirsty. So the Sinnott Foundation is also helping us to provide bicycles for needy boys and girls, and that is also making a lot of difference. I'm speaking very fast because I know time is not on our side. But if you take the digital classroom, in some communities, they have never seen a television. They have never seen a radio set. They don't even know about internet connectivity and Wi-Fi and all those things. They have never seen what is happening outside of the Gambia. So the digital classrooms that we have built, Anne will tell you, can attest to that. We have shown them many, many, many pictures of how even people who live in the community will come and stand by the window to look at what is happening. Enrollment in some of the areas where we have the digital classrooms, the enrollment have boosted. They have boosted. It has boosted enrollment so much so that also a lot of people are talking about it. People know it's a good initiative. We even have one in the special school for learning difficulties. Before the digital classroom, if you go to that school, the children will be all over the place. But now you go, they are so tranquil, they are sitting down, they are watching television, and they are looking at cartoons, and that is also helping them a lot. As for SRGBVs, school-related gender-based violence is a big problem here. We are having issues. We just completed 14 communities where we went. We brought 50 people together and they started talking about it. We are doing radio programs. So these are some of the programs we are doing with Steve Sinnott. And I can tell you for free that it is making a lot of difference in the lives of everybody who is a beneficiary. And most times we feel we are not doing much, but people appreciate it so much so that we always, Anne and myself, will always say, okay, well, Madam, we cannot do everything at the same time. I said, no, when I look at all these text messages, look at all these testimonies, we are changing lives. And that is the mantra. And for me, I feel good to talk about it because it is creating a big impact. I just got back from Dakar and everybody was talking to me about what we did in the area of school-related gender-based violence. So definitely, Steve Sinnott, 15 years of existence is, we are changing lives. We have change makers. We have our young ambassadors in the schools. And if you see what they are doing in the schools, you will always give them a thumbs up. I'm sure if people have questions at some point, if they ask me, and I will, before I hijack your presentation.
You're not hijacking it at all. We're working together, and it's good for people to hear from you, Marie Antoinette, because you're the person on the ground who knows everything that's happening. Thank you so much for sharing that, and I'm sure people will have some questions for you. I'll just go through the rest of the presentation quickly, if there's a few things to add, and then we can let people ask questions and have more of a conversation. The other thing that we do is we keep the conversation alive about the importance of education, and we publish a magazine twice a year called Engaged. I'm sure some of you have seen it. If you haven't, go along to our website and you can read it there. And if you would like some hard copies, I can also pop some in the post to you. The other thing, which is something really important, is we keep our blog up to date, so you can read about the different projects that are happening on the blog, on the website. We have resources for educators. They're not only used by educators, they're used by community groups. and you can have a look on the website and see some of the resources and share them with people. During COVID, as I touched on earlier, we had to change our way of working and connect with people. And we produced a series of lifelong learning webinars, and you can watch all of those videos on the YouTube channel. When we initially started, we were looking at things for educators, really, but after a very few short weeks, we realized that people wanted to know more about creativity and health and well-being. So there's something for everybody on the YouTube channel. Just dip in. They're quite short as well. They're all less than an hour. So this year we're celebrating our 15th anniversary, and we were due to have an event at the House of Commons on the 2nd of July, which some of you would have been invited to, of course. But then our current Prime Minister called an early election for the 4th of July. So that has been postponed, and we hope to do that later in the year, perhaps in November. So we'll be in touch as soon as we find out when the new date will be. And of course, we have to find out what members of Parliament will be around at that time, if there are any left at all. The charity gifts, which Marie Antoinette talked about, you can have a look on our website. Please do share them with people. You can £5 for a positive periods pack. It's £10 for a gift of a mother tongue book. Solar radios, we don't need them so much now, and we're probably going to change that to something to do with digital connectivity, because we've got some learning resource centres and digital classrooms which need resources, so we will be changing that. And of course the gift of cycling to school, which Marie Antoinette is very passionate about and spoke to you about a few minutes ago. So I think what we'll do is open it to questions now, and I'll stop sharing my screen, if that's okay.
People can either put questions.
Okay?
Yeah, people can either put questions in the chat or unmute yourself and ask a question, or put your hand up, whatever, however suits you. There is a question in the chat from Gilly. Where's it gone? Are you working with women affected by war?
Not directly. We have worked with women who are affected by various things. For example, you know, women in Haiti are really badly affected by the political and violent situation there. And you know, some of our colleagues in Sierra Leone and Uganda, they have been affected by war, but we're not working in places at the moment where there is war going on. So we do work with lots of women who are affected by PTSD.
Okay, I want to add on to that a bit, Anne.
Yes,
like in Guinea-Bissau, for example, the political situation is so bad, coup d'etats. So that has affected the economy so much so that the women, most of the time, find it difficult to go out. And because they find it difficult to go out, the earning power is virtually zero. So even for them to have food to eat or to buy sanitary pad is a big problem for themselves and their children. So as you rightly said, indirectly, we work with women who are suffering, you know, they have different forms of suffering. And as I said, this political unrest and all these coup d'etats is creating a lot of problem in our side of the globe here.
Jane, can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm not sure whether you know, but I'm trying to know my hand. I'm also the chair for this biennial of the SI Foundation. Do you know the SI Foundation?
I do. I'm not sure if everybody else is.
Okay.
included.
Well, the SI Foundation was established. It's taken the place of the President's Appeals. I've got some stuff. We invite clubs and regions to submit a request for financial support for various projects. Now, obviously working in partnership, you will all know Opening Doors, Maureen's projects. So you can see the range. She had 5 projects there. I can't guarantee anything, but if Jane would like to give me a call, we can talk about maybe if you feel like it, you could apply to the foundation for funding for specific projects. I mean, I'm particularly interested in what you're doing with obviously the period policy, but the violence against women and girls. So it's just a thought that, you know, there is money there. And the reason I asked about women affected by war-torn countries is that we do have a pot of money for women that are affected by it. It's a bit of a tortuous thing, which we can truncate getting it through. But if Jane, would you be the person to speak to me about it?
It's Anne that you need to speak to. She's the...
Oh, it needs to come from the club.
Yeah, Anne's a member of our club.
All right, Anne. Okay. Would you like to speak to me about it? Well, I mean, as I said, can't guarantee anything, but if you don't know about the foundation, we can at least try.
Anne did apply previously to Maureen for the Open Door project, didn't you, Anne?
Yes, yeah. Well, I didn't apply. We had a
Had a
conversation.
conversation with
Yeah,
Maureen.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you very much, Gilly. I will.
if you give me a call, because there's no money going into Open Doors now. That those particular projects are closed. They're finishing off with the money that we've got. So obviously it's a new way of doing things. I've got a foundation meeting tomorrow, and I will mention that I'd been at this. So do give me a call.
So because Anne's a speaker at the Sigby conference in Edinburgh
Yes.
as well, so that's quite important. So shall I email you both and get you in contact that way?
That would be good. Yeah, as I say, I can't guarantee anything, but it's certainly worth a dart. You know, I mean, if you don't ask, you don't get, and you've got to be in it to win it, and all those other, you know, quotations.
Thank you, Gilly.
You're welcome. We'll see what we can do.
There's a question there from Liz Tillett. What is your biggest challenge? That's
I think our biggest challenge is funding. I think we're very, very proud of the fact that over the last 15 years, we have developed a model of working, which means that we've been able to support women in 15 countries, not only women, but we've been able to support projects in 15 countries. So we've gone from supporting 2 countries to 15 by having this partnership model way of working on the same budget. So we've completely changed how we work within the same budget, and the reach is much wider. However, to keep it sustainable, I think the challenge is more funding now, if we're going to scale up and support the people that are waiting. Because I think one of the things is that when you're successful and people spread the word, then people contact you for more support than you can give. Yeah.
So there's Barbara there saying, how do you choose your priorities for funding?
Okay, so what we do to prioritize funding is we look at whether projects are fit for purpose, whether they're sustainable in the longer term. What we ask people to agree to is that projects will be sustainable within a 5-year period. Obviously, we work together to make that happen, but if they're not sustainable and they're not self-funding, then we, you know, don't just say, oh, we can't work in partnership anymore. You know, we look at what's best for everybody. A good example of that is we set up a learning resource centre in Nepal some years ago, and that was handed over to people on the ground, and they've been working and the centre's been working really well, and we haven't had anything to do with it. You know, it's been a project, but because of COVID and the effects that it's had on people and their earning capacity, tourism is down, you know, things are really, really difficult. They have come back to us recently and said, could you help us again for a couple of years till we get back on our feet? So, you know, I think, you know, that is how we kind of prioritize projects, I think, is on their merit, really. And we have a risk assessment, of course, and we develop, you know, real true partnerships, I believe, and we learn from each other. So, you know, it's not always easy, you know, but I think we're open and we're honest. You know, somebody a couple of years ago left some funding out of a bicycle project, and you know, they didn't have the money for the transport. That was the one thing that they'd forgotten. None of us noticed, and we just had to go back, and they came to us and said, oops, can we have some more money? And we just had an honest conversation, and that's how we work. And yeah, I feel very proud of that, and I hope Marie Antoinette, you know, and our other partners feel the same way.
I agree with you, Anne. Talking about prioritizing projects, for example, we were doing the positive period in the schools, but then realized that the teachers came up. It was initially just for the students, but then the teachers came up and said, look, this is very good. We are also having similar problems, if not worse, because if the students go to school and the teachers are at home, then there is not going to be teaching and learning. So we said, okay, how about exploring also having a training for the teachers? So that is how we prioritize also the teachers. Then in some of the communities, they have mothers clubs. They help with cleaning and some little other things in the schools. So they also came and said, and it's not in every community that we do the same. Like in this particular community, it's a poverty-driven community. So they came, they said, okay, please help us with the training so that we will also help other women. These are mothers clubs, and you know, we have all these programs where parents are supporting in the schools. So again, we did that. So that is sometimes how we prioritize our projects. Like the bicycles, we went to the schools and we saw students, because we have a pickup truck, and we saw students walking. So when they saw our pickup truck, they could not imagine. And when we gave them a ride, we realized that they were walking 10 kilometers and above. And we saw some of them, to be honest with you, they did not even have shoes on. Some of them, because of the long distance, half a pair of shoes. So we discussed it and we said, how about a bicycle project? In every school, you will find a chart, and every student's name will be on the chart, and they will tell you how many kilometers they have to walk to come to school. So it was easy to identify those people who are very, very needy. And I said it, sometimes the sun is 44 degrees. So you can imagine walking 10 kilometers to school. Sometimes they don't even get to school. They are tired. Sometimes, as I said, they are beaten by wild animals. They are raped. They are molested. They are harassed. Some of them are forced out of school to get married, early and forced marriage. Some of them teenage pregnancy, they get pregnant, you know, because somebody gave them a ride, and along the way, you know, abuse them. So those are all things those are some of the methods we use to prioritize some of the projects. And Anne also talks about the challenges. One of the challenges, one of the challenge we are facing is not being able to meet the demand, and that is very, very well connected to funding. Because we just trained 800 people, we sensitize them on you know, how to eliminate gender-based violence, the strategies, etc., etc. But where you have 22,000 members, and you just trained 800. In a community, you go to a school where you have 2,000 people, you want to choose 50. Come and hear the phone calls, how they'll be calling you. Well, I'm interested here, but we cannot bring all of you. We can only bring 50 people at this time. So those are some of the challenges we have, but we are trying, slow but sure. We'll get there.
Thank you, Marie Antoinette. Somebody just asked what countries we're working in. We're working in the Gambia, Sierra Leone, Nepal, Colombia, Cape Verde, Haiti, Cuba, Guinea-Bissau, Senegal, Uganda, Malawi, Ghana, Cambodia, and Jamaica. We've done some small projects there, and also in the UK. And we've got a list of at least another 10 countries waiting for support. I can't see any more questions in the chat, Jane. Oh,
What are you proudest of, Anne, if over the last 15 years? What makes you the proudest?
I think the thing that makes me the proudest is knowing that we've supported women to change their lives. Some of the women that I've worked very closely with, they have now set up their own local NGOs, and it's, you know, really empowering to see that, you know, they're flying now. And I think I'm really proud of that. What I'd really like is to be in a position where my job doesn't exist and that people on the ground just get money directly to do the work that they need to do. So when I see women like Isata, who I hoped would be here today, but she couldn't because she had to have a minor operation this week, that's what I'm proud of, really. And loads of things. I could be here for another half an hour, but I'll stick with that.
So there's one. Helen, have you got any plans for how you get more funds?
Yes, we have very recently received some funding to support us to become sustainable. And I'm now working on match funding for that work. Because we're a very small organisation. So in terms of, you know, writing bids and applying for funding, there's just not enough bodies. So I'm hoping that that will really help us. So that's what we're working on at the moment in terms of fundraising.
Amita's asked you a question.
And
Would you like to share? Yes, you went to Japan, to Kyoto for the peace project, didn't you? Do you want to tell us a bit?
Yes. So I wear another hat. I'm a UNESCO coordinator for ASP.NET schools in the UK. And we have about 150 schools in the UK, but it's a worldwide network. And there is about 12,500 schools in 182 countries. So I do that in a volunteer position. I don't get paid for that. And we have implemented an Arts and Culture for Peace initiative, and Helen has been supporting me with that, Helen Porter, and she came to Japan. So I led a delegation of 60 educators and students to Kyoto in Japan, and we went last September. And we, you know, went to Hiroshima, and the students did lots of arts and culture work together to foster peace around the world. And they made some peace tea bowls, which were displayed at the UNESCO headquarters in Paris. That was like one of the outcomes. But prior to that, we had done an online conference. And we're now working on the next project, which is Arts and Culture for Peace, but it's Seeds of Hope. And that's about climate change and getting young people internationally to work together on that. Yeah, so that's another thing that we've been doing.
And Pat's asked, pick that up. How do you ensure the full funding gets to the right places in those countries?
So we have a monitoring and evaluation program, which all charities will or should have in place. And so the receipts, we see all the receipts for all of the funding that is spent. We agree in advance what the funding is meant to be spent on, and obviously if there's any changes to that, we have a discussion about, you know, if that's agreed, if we need to change, because, you know, we're flexible, you know, we're not you you know, saying, well, this is what the money is for if circumstances change. And I think because we're small, I mean, during COVID, we could be flexible, we could change our way of working, and we can adapt. I mean, you know, if there is an earthquake in Haiti, then, you know, we realise that people might need to spend project funds on different things. But we have that conversation, an open and honest conversation. So we see all the receipts. There's a reporting system so that, you know, we see videos and photographic evidence. And either myself or other people go and visit projects regularly to make sure that, you know, progress is happening. But I think, to be honest, Pat, the main thing is about building partnerships that are based on trust and open and honest conversation.
I was sort of just wondering whether optimists in those countries have been involved in any of the projects. It's difficult to know now because obviously Africa has their own federation. I was thinking about when we used to work in Zimbabwe, and you know, we have very close contacts with SI Harare and so on. So I'm not too sure exactly whereabouts we now have clubs in those countries.
Well, we haven't got any projects in that area, although we have got some projects in South Africa waiting for us to support them. And, you know, I'd be really happy if myself and Marie Antoinette don't have to travel quite so much and we could team up with people to support you know, monitoring and advising and supporting with project work. Yeah, I'd be very happy to explore that. What do you think, Marie Antoinette?
So I just want to add to what you said about ensuring that the money gets to where it should be.
Yeah.
You talked trust, but also, for example, in the Gambia, if you have money for Gambia Teachers Union, it does not come to Marie Antoinette's account. It goes to the Gambia Teachers Union account, which has a very robust accounting system, which has a very robust auditing package. So the money goes there. And then before that, there is a budget, and as Anne rightly said, but I just want to say the money does not come to Marie Antoinette's account. It goes into Gambia Teachers Union main account. So it is so transparent. Everything is monitored. Everything is audited. So definitely we make sure that it goes to where it should go to. In Guinea-Bissau, for example, because our system is not as robust, their system is not as robust as our system. So the money for Guinea-Bissau comes to Gambia Teachers Union, and we find a way of sending it to them because they, like, personally, I one time went all the way to Guinea-Bissau to implement the projects, and the money was with me, and it was safe, and receipts and pictures and videos. And in fact, while the program is going on, we usually send pictures, and sometimes we receive 50, 60 pictures, and we say, my phone will soon crash.
Pat makes a good point there about using the Optimist network in Africa. And you know, Mary Muir, when we had the conference in London last year, she stayed with me, and she's now president-elect for the Africa Foundation. So I can certainly get you an intro to Mary, and she's been working with the UN in Africa. So with the Nairobi office of the UN, you know, that's the health one, isn't it? Is that health? Yeah. No, Nairobi. No, agriculture, is it? Nairobi. Anyway, I can.
Yeah, I'm very happy, Jane, if you connect me with people to explore opportunities, possibilities. Yeah, very happy.
Well, like, yeah, because I know that you understand that really well, that people on the ground that's how we get things done, isn't it? With people on the ground. And Pat's nodding as well, yes. That's how it works. Brilliant. So I think are we any more questions? Are we running out a bit now? It's been absolutely brilliant to hear from Anne. Thank you so much. And
can I just ask you all to do one thing for me?
Yes.
Could you please tell one other person about the work of the Steve Sinnott Foundation? Doesn't
Okay.
involve money, it doesn't involve a lot of work. Just tell one more person, please.
Yeah, and share
That's
if, and if you do stuff on social media, because I share stuff about
Yeah,
the
you do.
Steve Sinnott Foundation. If you see me sharing stuff about the Steve Sinnott Foundation, then share what I've shared. It's all good stuff. Thank you so much, Anne. And we know it's going to be a treat to hear from you in Edinburgh as well. We're not quite sure yet how many of us are going, but I'm definitely going to be there to support you. So that's lovely.
Thank you, Marie Antoinette, as well, for giving up your time and coming along. And
My
and
pleasure, always.
Leslie. And I think Maya's there too. She's but yeah. Thank you, everyone.
I did put a note in the chat if people want to make a donation. Obviously, they can make donations to the Steve Sinnott Foundation directly, but or through our club, and anybody who booked via Eventbrite will get that reminder as well. So I'm going to turn off the recording now. So let's stop